Hello, I'm Chris Poulin, Vice President of Technology for BTX Technologies. Today, I'm going to walk you through the application settings of our BookIT room scheduling solution. We'll cover setting a master password, language selection, date and time formats, the upcoming meeting warning, check-in and auto-release functions, disabling bookings from the panel, setting your logo, changing the background, and the pre-configured support message. What you're looking at now is the main BookIT UI. You can see that the room is available, but we do have a meeting that I've set, and I'm going to use that to show you how some of these settings can impact the experience of using BookIT. In order to get into settings in BookIT, you will go into the settings button and press that at the bottom bar. When you first get BookIT, there's no master password set, so you could just click log in and then select settings, and that gets you into the settings area. We do always offer up your license key for reference, and this is where you can set your master password. I highly recommend setting a master password. This is going to prevent casual users from being able to get into BookIT settings or closing BookIT. This is the only way that you can close the application is by coming into settings, and also prevents them from getting into the underlying OS. So I'm going to set a password right now. We'll just do password 123, and I'm going to go and save that out. And we're going to go back into settings. Now, if we try to log in without typing in the password, you're going to get a wrong password error. So let's go and enter the password that we just set. And we're going to log in, and now we're into BookIT settings. So let's go back into the settings and take a look at the next thing that you can configure, and that is language. When you first get BookIT, you will be presented with an initial language selection, but you can come in later on here to application settings and change the language. Currently, we offer BookIT in English, French, and Spanish. More languages are on the way. I'm going to leave it at English right now. The next thing you can configure is the date and time selection. So we can change from a 12-hour clock. Notice we have the AM up here, 11:20 a.m. I can change this by selecting a 24-hour clock, and that AM is going to go away, and that will change it to a 24-hour clock. So when you get to 1 p.m., it's going to show 1,300 hours, 2 p.m., 1,400 hours, and so on. You can also change the date format. So in the US, we have month, day, year. Most everywhere else in the world, they have day, month, year, and then there's also an ISO version, which is year, month, day. So I'm going to change this to day, month, year. And notice what you see up here, we have it in our current format, month, day, year. When I change this and save this, the AM is going to go away, and this is going to be day, month, year. So let me go and save that out. And if you look, the AM is gone from there, the AM is gone from the meeting area, and we also have day, month, year showing at the top. And that's the way it's going to look throughout the application, including on the main screen and in your date pickers and other areas that require a date format to show. Let's go back into settings, and we'll look at the next setting that we can configure. The next thing you can configure is the upcoming meeting warning. The upcoming meeting warning changes the screen from green to yellow, or if there's an in-process meeting and another meeting is going to begin right after it, it's going to change the screen to yellow. You can configure this in 5 minutes to 30 minutes, in 5-minute increments, and if you don't want to use it at all, you can turn it off by just unchecking the enable button. I'm going to change this to 15 minutes before the start time of the meeting. And if I save that out, you'll note that the meeting that I had scheduled is now within that window, and the screen is going to be yellow. So now we know a meeting is about to begin in this room. If someone's walking past this room, they're not going to try and come in and book it because they know a meeting is just about to begin. Let's take a look at the check-in function and auto-release function. So I'm going to log back in. We're going to go into application settings. And now we have check-in and auto-release time. Note that this has two time windows. The first one is when the check-in button will appear before the start time of the meeting. Again, this is configurable from 5 minutes to 30 minutes in 5-minute increments. I'm going to set this to 15 minutes as well. And you can enable this or disable this just like you can the upcoming meeting warning. I'm going to go and save this out. And now we're going to see the check-in button showing up in the next meeting area. I'm sure most of you have experienced standing outside of a meeting room waiting for the previous meeting to complete and waiting for your meeting to begin. When you're standing outside this room, anybody can check into this meeting just by pressing this button. Let's go back in and we'll take a look at that auto release time. Oh, I didn't enter my password. The second time window that's here is the time after the start time of the meeting. If the check-in button isn't pressed within that time frame, what's going to happen is the meeting is going to automatically release and make the room available for someone else to book. This doesn't impact the organizer's calendar, but it does alter the end time of the room calendar. It will change the end time to the current auto release time. The room will become available, but the organizer's calendar remains the same. Just because they didn't make it to the meeting room doesn't mean the meeting's not going to happen somewhere else. So the next thing is disabling bookings from the sign. So we have plenty of use cases where the company wants complete control over booking that room. Flexible office space is a great example where they don't want people to be able to just walk up and book the room. The management wants to be able to control that. So what we can do is let's go back to the application, and I'm going to go and change my meeting to the current time. So let me go and find my meeting in Outlook. Okay, and the current time is 11:26. So I'm going to go and change that to 11:26 so that our meeting, goes into the active state. So I'm going to send that out. I'm going to go back in here, and in just a moment, that's going to change to red. If you heard the chime, you can see that this request was accepted because the room is free for us to use. And there we go. The room is changed to red. I'm going to check in to the room. And note that all of the buttons are now active here. So the release, extend, and delete buttons are only available if there's an active meeting. Okay? So if you didn't want someone to book from the sign, what we can do is go into settings, and we'll go to that section, and we're going to check that checkbox, and we're going to save that out. And now you'll see that everything is grayed out with the exception of the release button. And that release button can only be used by the organizer, because when you go and set a meeting in here, you're using your normal credentials to the calendaring system, whether it be Exchange or Google. So in order to change that, you would actually have to go in here and log in order to do it. So no one's going to mess with your meeting, but no one can actually book a meeting from the sign. Let's go back in and we'll check the next setting that we can get to. I'm going to untick that box. You can also change the logo. So this logo down in the bottom right-hand corner that says BookIT, you can change that to your corporate logo. If you're doing this from the device, you actually have to go and put your logo onto a USB stick and plug it into the back of the panel in order to select it. So we have our default. You can always get back to that. And if you want to look at all images, you'll see that I don't have anything in here. But you can do that if you have a USB stick plugged into the back. I recommend doing this through our device management portal. The BookIT device management portal is much easier to use, and that'll be in a separate video. But when you do that from the BookIT device management portal, you actually have access to all of your local drives and your network shares and things like that, so you can do those things. And it's much easier to change that way. You can also change the background. So we have 6 predefined backgrounds that have been carefully created to make sure that there's maximum readability on the sign. So you can never really change the color scheme because the UI of BookIT is your at a glance uh, view of meeting status. So the screen is going to be green if it's available, it's going to be yellow if a meeting's about to begin, and it's going to be red if a meeting is already in progress. So you can change these backgrounds. I'm going to select this one, it's my favorite, and I'm going to save it out. And you'll see that it actually makes a pretty profound difference in the look of the screen. So let's go back into settings and we'll talk about the last thing on our list, which is a predefined support message. This is a pre-configured email that can be sent out from BookIT. You need to select a person to send it to, or perhaps a distribution group. It might be your help desk distribution group. You make a predefined subject and a predefined message. You can fill in the phone number and extensions. It will automatically snag the name of the room, and it's automatically going to populate the organizer of the meeting. And then you need to give it an account to send from. We typically use the account that we provisioned BookIT with, which is the room account with full access permissions to the room. So I'm going to save that. And this pretty much, if you did this when there was no active meeting, what would happen is some of the fields would be blank because there's no meeting to check out and there's no organizer to check out. But when the meeting is active, all you need to do is click the support button. You'll see all the things that you filled in are here, and notice it also shows the organizer of the room. And then you can click send, and an email is automatically going to be sent out. If you heard the chime, you can see that that email has already made its way to me. I'm going to go here and we're going to take a look at my mail, and you'll see meeting room support required. So those are all the things that we just filled in. Help desk, the support is needed in the room, and it shows the room, the phone number, the extension, and the organizer of the meeting. Well, that's a walkthrough BookIT application settings. I thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you again.